Today we're going on an exciting adventure through history. Our topic? Cannibalism. That's when people eat each other. Sounds creepy, right? It's a practice that has intrigued and grossed us out for centuries. It's not just about eating other humans, it goes beyond that. But don't worry, we'll make sure to keep it lighthearted and engaging. Did you know that the word cannibalism comes from a group of people called the Caribs? They were from the Caribbean islands and had a reputation for being fierce warriors and, according to legends, cannibals. First, let me tell you, when a person is consumed by members of their own community, it's known as endo-cannibalism. Our story begins in the depths of prehistory, where our distant cousins, the Neanderthals, roamed the earth. Archaeological findings showed that they tried cooking like cavemen themselves. Imagine these early humans sharpening their stone knives and pondering the flavors of their fellow Neanderthals. Who knew that takeout back then meant something entirely different? Fast forward to ancient Egypt, the land of pyramids, pharaohs, and cannibalism? Yes, you heard that right. Even the mighty Egyptians had a taste for human flesh. Get ready to set sail to the stunning Lesser Antilles, home of the island Carib people. They gained a reputation as cannibals because of tales recorded in the 17th century. Legend has it that these Caribbean folks enjoyed human meat, but like any good story, there is some doubt. Were they true food enthusiasts or victims of exaggerated rumors? Let's find out. You see, as we explore history, it's evident that cannibalism wasn't always a choice, but a result of extreme circumstances. During famines and times of scarcity, people had no other option for food. So when our ancestors had nothing else to eat, they turned to each other. It shows how far people can go when they're desperately hungry. Cannibalism has left its mark in various corners of the globe, from the tropical paradise of Fiji to the vast Amazon basin, the dense Congo jungles, and the indigenous Maori people of New Zealand. The act of consuming human flesh has been well documented. Let's shift our focus to the remote islands of New Guinea and the Solomon Islands, where eating flesh once had a presence. But before going further, if you like this type of video, then please like the video and subscribe as well. Back on track. In certain parts of Melanesia, human flesh was even sold at markets. What? There's also the trading of flesh now? Ooh. While cannibalism has been historically practiced, it's important to recognize the criticisms it has faced. For instance, war-torn regions like Liberia and the Democratic Republic of the Congo have shown the dark side of this taboo act. It challenges us to grapple with cultural relativism, the idea that different cultures have their own values and practices. It forces anthropologists and scholars to question the boundaries of acceptable human behavior. Some argue that it has never been socially acceptable anywhere in the world throughout history. Others challenge this notion, sparking ongoing debates and discussions. Now, let's hear some myths and folklore about it. Are you ready? Cannibalism often finds its place in the folklore and legends of various cultures, portraying it as an act of extreme evil or a form of punishment for wrongdoing. Take, for instance, the infamous witch in the classic tale of Hansel and Gretel. The wicked witch enticed innocent children to her gingerbread house, planning to eat them. It's a warning to be cautious of seemingly friendly faces with sinister intentions. Greek mythology is also full of tales that involve cannibalism, especially within families. Let's explore these stories a bit. Thyestes, Tereus, and Kronos, or Satan, where they consume their own family members. It shows the depths of their twisted desires. The gods had quite the unusual taste in food, don't you think? Now it's the turn of the legends of the Algonquian people and their fearsome creature, the Wendigo. It's a malevolent spirit with an insatiable craving for human flesh. Some believe it could possess humans, while others think it can transform them into the monster itself. Those who engaged in it were said to be at risk of falling victim to the Wendigo's influence. The legend serves as a powerful warning against such gruesome acts, reminding people of the horrors that awaited them. In Athabascan mythology, we encounter the Wet'sugi, a terrifying creature that combines human and monstrous traits and indulges in cannibalistic acts. In certain cultures, endo-cannibalism, cannibalism of members of one's own family or tribe, is seen as part of the grieving process or a way to guide the souls of the departed into the bodies of their living family members. It's a special way of honoring and connecting with the deceased. On the other side, we have exo-cannibalism. This happens when people consume individuals from outside their community, usually to celebrate a victory over a rival group. Both endocannibalism and exocannibalism can be driven by a belief that consuming someone's flesh or organs will grant the cannibal certain characteristics of the person they ate. Imagine someone thinking, if I eat the heart of a brave warrior, I'll inherit their courage. It's a belief that connects physical and spiritual qualities. In the books Guns, Germs and Steel, Jared Diamond suggests an interesting idea. He proposes that cannibalism was widespread in traditional New Guinea highland societies due to a lack of protein. While it's not considered normal in most places, there are rare situations where it becomes a desperate last resort. Let's explore some intriguing cases where people turn to cannibalism to stay alive. Imagine being stranded after a shipwreck, like the survivors of the Essex and the Medusa in the 1800s. When faced with no other options, some say they turned to cannibalism. Similar desperate situations occurred with Franklin's lost expedition and the ill-fated Donner Party. It's crucial to note that in these cases, it involved consuming the already deceased rather than intentionally killing for food. Now, it's time to talk about the legal side of cannibalism, specifically in English law. Even in the most dire circumstances, intentionally killing someone for cannibalistic purposes is considered a crime. A precedent was set in the case of R.V. Dudley and Stevens, where two men were found guilty of murder for killing and eating a cabin boy while adrift at sea. R.V. Dudley and Stevens is the leading English criminal case which established a precedent throughout the common law world that necessity is not a defense to a charge of murder. This case established that necessity cannot be used as a defense against a murder charge. Did you know that in the past people actually consumed body parts and blood for medical purposes? Don't you think it's another excuse for eating flesh? We're about to find that out too. It may sound like something out of a horror movie, but this practice was shockingly popular during the 17th century in Europe. Picture yourself in a time where doctors had peculiar ideas about medicine. They believed that consuming body parts or blood could cure various ailments. Forget about popping pills or sipping herbal tea. Back then it was all about devouring a piece of your neighbor or sucking down some fresh blood. It's like an unconventional remedy. Now let's delve into the unthinkable. There are individuals who engaged in cannibalism not out of necessity, but because they found pleasure in it. Okay, this is something interesting. People like Jeffrey Dahmer, Issei Sagawa, and Albert Fish send chills down our spine. They committed acts of cannibalism for their own twisted satisfaction. Let's take a deep look at one of its names, Jeffrey Dahmer. Born on May 21, 1960 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Jeffrey Dahmer seemed like an ordinary person on the surface, but his true nature was far from it. He committed his first murder in Bath Township, Ohio in 1978, setting off a chain of horrifying events that would follow. Starting in 1987, his killing skills intensified, targeting young men, mostly from poor African American, Asian or Latino backgrounds. Unlike many other killers, Jeffrey Dahmer claimed that his childhood was fairly normal. However, there were signs of neglect and emotional distance from his parents. Lionel, his father, admitted to being absent during Jeffrey's formative years. But how did these factors contribute to his transformation from an ordinary boy to a twisted murderer? The motive behind Jeffrey Dahmer's cannibalism can be traced back to his desire for total dominance and possession over his victims. In his own words, he expressed obsessive thoughts of controlling them and keeping them with him permanently. When authorities arrested Dahmer, they discovered a horrifying scene in his apartment. Severed heads in the freezer, human hearts and skulls were found atop his computer. To Jeffrey Dahmer, the consumption of his victims' body parts became a twisted way of memorializing them. He saw it as a means to possess them forever, to hold on to their physical beauty. One particularly disturbing act was when he fried a man's biceps in oil and tasted it, likening it to beef. When his crimes came to light in February 1992, the nation was shocked, as he was sentenced to multiple life terms for his heinous crimes, including an additional sentence for the 1978 murder. This journey is surely the haunting history of cannibalism. You would have heard the old saying that you are what you eat. Thankfully, in our case, we're filled with knowledge and not the deeds of our flesh-hungry ancestors. So what are your thoughts about cannibalism? Or do you know anybody who's involved in it? Go burst your comments with your thoughts.